So one important aspect of the Meta Sofia message is personal fulfillment. So when it comes to self-knowledge and accepting what we are, all that we are, and then integrating it in a healthy and conscious fashion, that's how we will become truly fulfilled. Because if we're not being real about who we are and what we really feel and what we really want, etc., then we're never actually going to be fulfilled or happy. Because what we get, if we are not presenting an authentic version of ourselves, what we get will not be fulfilling. It won't be what we really want. So it's the basic concept that if you're to any extent to which you're living a lie or living a falsehood, you won't be drawing things to yourself that actually fulfill you. So that's a big part of the message of self-knowledge and acceptance of all that we are, every feeling, every aspect of ourselves, knowing it, and then learning to integrate the core aspect of each desire into our overall nature in a way that is healthy and that won't do harm, but will also allow us to fulfill the true essence of each desire. Okay, so that's a big part of the message. But then there's the other part, which is that as we do this, as we integrate ourselves and become fulfilled, we will also be capable of authentic relation to others. So then it's a matter of getting to know others as who they truly are. And that produces real unity and a more conscious and healthy culture, which has the potential to solve the issues that we face in the world. So, you know, when I walk around a city like London and just see the beauty of, you know, the bridges on the Thames and pretty much, you know, some very classic and really incredibly well done architecture, as well as the modern aspects of the city. You can see in the way that everything is laid out, you can see in the way that, you know, the boats move through the water, the cars over the bridges. There's so much we take for granted about what does work in our culture and the ways in which we are unified and able to actually work and live together in a way that's positive. And I feel like something we need to recognize is the strengths of what we have in terms of our cultures, but also in terms of our ability to work together and be unified. Of course, true unity requires that we are not forced within a given system or relationships. So in terms of the social message, there's the need to create real freedom at a basic physical level in order that we're not trapped within a system and thus unable to fulfill ourselves or find real relationship with others. When we have a dynamic where certain people feel trapped, they're trapped within their jobs, they're trapped within their lives, they're trapped within their, you know, cultures. Not everyone, but those who are, and then some aren't. There's this kind of resentment between people that prevents unity across various barriers. There's a distrust. And so it is vital to address social issues and to create real change in society at a societal level. However, as I come back to over and over again, the beginning of this is self-knowledge and the integration of who we truly are, the process of individuation, as the psychologist Carl Jung called it, the process of individuation, meaning we become who we truly are, integrating ourselves in a way that means we're becoming not just whole, but more conscious. And then, as I started with, this allows us to develop real, authentic relation to others. And if we can do that, if we begin with ourselves and then begin with creating authentic relation to others in which we, you know, embark on creative endeavors or projects or activism from a more conscious platform that will lead toward transformation in culture. But we just, you have to get the foundation right. You have to start in the right place. And so the reason I have a 3-book series with Meta Sofia, the first book, Ego and Soul, is about our personal journey of individuation, integration, awareness, fulfillment, honesty, authentic self-experience. The reason I begin there is because that's the platform by which we then move into authentic relationship, and in authentic relationship we create change in culture. And then the basis for all of this, which I address in the 3rd book, is a understanding of metaphysical reality, the broader existence, which does recognize a spiritual dimension. It doesn't have to be a specific, any kind of specific faith, but to recognize that there is deeper meaning to existence. And I go into the nature of consciousness, that it's actually far more logical to assume that our consciousness is essential to existence rather than assuming that consciousness is derivative of matter, when in fact matter and physics are derivative of essential consciousness, which is actually, when you analyze it, the more logical assumption. And so there is that need for a basis, generally I would call it spiritual, but it doesn't have to be spiritual in the classic, certainly not religious sense, but some basis for believing we're capable of higher consciousness, of a more authentic self-experience and more authentic, honest, and loving relation to others. So it is a process. I try to look at the positive of things as well as what needs to be changed. So in addressing ourselves, we look at the nature of the ego when it's separated from our overall self and our spirit, and how it can be a little monster. It can behave like a little monster, trying to take everything for itself, being selfish, hurting others. At the same time, I look at the positive side of that the ego is a tool for the spirit in this dimension of existence that helps us to interface with this dimension of reality. And the same thing with things that need to be altered in culture, and some of the negative dynamics which oppress people, also to look at the positive of what we have achieved and what we're capable of achieving as human beings. So it's important to do that too. And then again with the spiritual, looking at the issue of isolating ourselves from reality, which is the essence of what we call hell, isolation from existence. But then always looking at the ultimate picture as one in which consciousness and unity and truth, reality and relationship in truth of what we are and what others are, that is ultimately more powerful than any negative forces. And so to go back to where I started, looking at culture and the beauty of, say, a city like London, or any city of the world in any culture, just looking at what we have achieved and the positivity of that, and the being sure that we recognize what's good, because as we move forward, it's the same for us individually. If we're seeking to alter ourselves to look at negative aspects of who we are, we have to do that by also recognizing what's good in ourselves, recognizing that in our essential nature, whoever we are and wherever we are in our lives, there are very beautiful and positive forces and aspects to our nature. And so it's always important to recognize that. For each thing that we look at that this needs to change, we have to start from that foundation of acceptance and recognition of what is good. Because if you don't do that, it just becomes negative, and it plays into the ego's desire to point out everything bad in everything else, everything it's not comfortable with, in everyone else, everything it doesn't like, and to make everything so negative in terms of whatever it doesn't want, and then look at just a few things that it's comfortable with as what's necessary and good. And we have to combat that by being humble, and also by being positive about what is good, not just in ourselves, but in culture, in others, in the world, in existence. And so it's a balancing act, and it is possible through the recognition of our own ego, but also our deeper nature, in which we can integrate ego and become more aware, authentic, and relational beings. And yes, I think that's good.